Center, Colorado, visiting with Weston Ensz. And Weston has been here several years and very good operator, particular guy about he wants to do the best for his farm. And this is about the 4th or 5th time that I visited with Weston and kind of want him to share a little bit of information with us. So Weston, what got you to move to the San Luis Valley?
Well, I moved with my parents.
Okay.
And we were looking for a drier climate because I grew up in Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
And we moved out west to the drier climate. We definitely got it here.
Definitely got it. This is a very high, if I remember correctly, it's the highest arid valley in the world. And it gets what, about 6 inches of rain a year, annual rainfall?
Between 6 and 7. I think it's closer to 7
Okay,
of precipitation.
all right,
That's an average.
sure. And so, but usually it rains at the wrong time of the year when you're trying to put up hay.
Yeah, we have a monsoon season.
Okay.
And that is our second cutting of alfalfa, and that would, the month of July, first part of August it rains a lot in the afternoons, quite unpredictable,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, it can rain every day.
So we're at about 7,400 altitude, something like that?
76 to 8.
76 to 78. Okay, and so how many acres of alfalfa do you raise on your farm now?
We have between 800 and 1,000 acres
Okay,
of alfalfa.
and you cut 2 or 3 or 4 times what?
3 times.
3 times, okay. So you'll normally cut like about the 10th of July, or when's your first cutting?
Our first cutting is the 10th to the 15th of June.
Okay.
Usually. And then the second cutting is mid to end of July.
Okay,
And then the third cutting varies according to how our second cutting gets put up
right,
sometimes. But it's in September a lot of times.
okay. So, knowing this area and the potato price of the ground, there's a lot of ground here that's, what, 800,000 a quarter?
Yeah, that's what it's going for. There's quite a bit has sold 7 to 900,000
Yeah, okay.
a quarter.
Yeah. And so, you put up quality hay, and we got you started using Evergreen, and you've not gone through a complete season yet. But in your first cutting, what have you noticed with the Evergreen product?
Well, I'm a little bit skeptical when it comes to using products and trusting.
Sure.
We've not used any type of preservative or any additive at all on hay before. So when we started using this, I say we have to take it slow.
Yeah.
Try a little bit and see how it works and move up the trust
Sure.
in it. My goal was to try to get it with a little bit more moisture, because our first cutting we have trouble getting dew, and if we can bump it up and have just a little bit more stem moisture, our leaves would hang together, hang on a little better.
Mm-hmm.
That's my goal.
Sure.
The other option is a steamer,
Okay.
but they're very expensive too for a small operation.
Sure. Sure. So, thinking back as you used it on the first cutting, what were some positive things? And I know not everything is positive, but you have some negative things too with any product you use. what would be the negative things that you saw maybe first?
The negative would probably be always trying to guess at your rate, and then to always be sure that you have enough on. And one thing is the calibration of the dry that we're putting on. I know it's a little tougher, but I prefer the dry over the wet,
Sure.
just for my own personal use.
Right.
And so the calibration can always be a little tougher because you got to bail for a little while till you know you're on target. So that would be one negative. Another negative would be when you purchase the stuff, it feels expensive. Spread out over the bales, it doesn't feel that much cost, but up front it feels like quite a cost.
That's a good point. You know, I never think of that because I just drop off the stuff and then bill the guy later. And yeah, but when you open that envelope and you see that bill, you think, man, this is expensive. But like you said, as you put it over the bales now, it's not nearly what you seemed.
Yeah, and you have to think about it over the bales because, we haven't used anything, so this is a cost we've never had associated with it. But then when I look at a tight window on second cutting, we're doing it right now, and I am having a lot of faith in it because I'm pushing the window and trying to get it up, correctly, using this to stabilize the hay.
Okay. So your first cutting, what did you try to shoot for as far as moisture?
I was shooting for the 18% range. It varies a lot because of conditions. They're not always perfect. Some of it is real dry, and some of it push the envelope of wet.
Sure.
And not all the way through the field. There's just those specific bales. So yeah, that can be a challenge.
Yeah, right. Okay, so that was the first cutting. What do you feel comfortable with now in the second cutting on the moisture? Because you've seen the first cutting, and I want to take you back to the test when the guy came around and tested your hay. It was awesome hay. You had some 223 RFV hay, and that just doesn't happen by accident. I mean, that's management on your side, looking and preparing, trying to get that hay up to the best quality of hay. So.
Yeah, on the second cutting now, I'm going up with my moisture. I'm willing to go a little bit higher. We do normally go higher even without preservative because the quality of the hay and the energy that's in the hay, it doesn't turn bad so quick. You can stand a little more. But, now I'm feeling fairly confident at 20.
Okay.
And that makes it so that the wet slugs or anything, dandelions, some of that moisture you'll hit 26, 27, but it's only for like a short period. So I feel like it'll even out.
Okay.
And I'm using up to 2 pounds of the product when I feel like we're pushing that.
Sure. And you have 3 balers, right?
Correct.
And when you go on a pivot with 3 balers, how long do you work them all together, or do
We
you
do.
separate? Yeah.
We work in from the outside, and everybody stays in sync
Okay.
pretty much.
That's awesome, because that doesn't just happen. That's
No.
some planning and some, training the guys over the years to get it done, so that's
Yeah.
awesome.
So that's how we do. It takes about, depends on how heavy the hay is. It'll take 3 hours, 2 to 2.5. I should say 2.5 to 3 hours with 3 balers to bale a circle.
Wow, wow. That's a lot of action out on a pivot.
Yeah.
Okay, so, I noticed as you stacked your hay, you do an excellent job of giving some airspace. Why do you do that?
We do that because we've never used preservative before. We have always felt like giving it a little bit of air, even if it's dry. We just get in a habit of stacking that way, because you never know that one slug there, that when you pack it together, the moisture moves to the heat, and if there's a slug, it creates heat, and it'll move through rows of bales to get to that, and it'll congregate around one spot. Well, if you leave a gap, to me, it stops the going through rows of bales. You may have one bale in the whole stack, but you didn't damage 15 bales around it. And I know that we fight that a little more on our older stands that have heavier stems and some dandelions. They always wick moisture.
Sure.
So that's the reason we stack like that. It's not that every stack's wet. There's some that we'd comfortably push together, but we get in a habit of it, and it turns the bales slightly brown on the sides,
Right.
in between some, but it sheds it, and the water won't penetrate, really doesn't penetrate the bale and ruin hay that you would have different by stacking it tight. We've had more damage from rain by stacking it tight because it doesn't air out and dry out.
Right.
It runs down between the bales.
And something probably we need to tell the guys that are watching this, just because it's dry here doesn't mean we get a lot of snow here, right?
We do. We don't worry terrible much. We don't cover our hay because there's some around that cover the hay. But for the most part, it doesn't soak in that much, and we can have 6 or 8 inches of snow.
Right.
But yeah.
All right, well, very good. If you were gonna look at this again, good to see you.
I gotta leave this out here so I can, it's in the process of sending some pertinent
Well,
information.
you can leave it on the table in there because the router's in that room.
I just need all
Okay.
the stuff I can get.
You bet. That was your dad, and he's the one kind of found the farm out here, and then everybody followed along.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right.
You got an awesome farm, an awesome family, and I think that I really appreciate about you, Weston, is you're trying to do the best at everything you do, and it's complimentary. You can tell as you around here that you're doing that. Now you run some cows too,
We do.
and so by not buying more ground, you're able to diversify your farm with the cattle, and keeps your brothers busy on the cattle side, and I see you've got some trucks and some combines, so you're combining your own barley?
We are. We do some for the neighbors too.
Sure, some custom work to help pay for the
Yeah,
deal.
just a small amount.
Right. So, well, I want to thank you, Weston, for taking the time to visit with us. And in closing, is there anything else that you could think of that maybe we haven't talked about?
One thing is I've compared the cost of
Mhm.
Evergreen to the other products, some other dry products that are around and available. The dry preservatives would be cheaper. The competitors are cheaper, but I believe that you have a bigger range of control with Evergreen, where if you want just the control that you would get with a competitor's product, you would get by with 1 pound, which is right at the same price then.
Sure.
So that's where I'm at on that.
Awesome. Well, that's great. Thanks. And I know you do your homework, looking at stuff, and I just again want to thank you, Weston. You're an addition to this community. Even though you haven't, how long have you been here?
We moved here in '95.
Okay. So
22 years.
22 years, wow, yeah. So I know people that know Weston, and a lot of your neighbors are kind of watching, and I think it's gonna, just like it does in any area, it's gonna explode once the guys get comfortable and familiar with it, you know. Anyways, I again want to appreciate you, appreciate your family for doing this, and opportunity is going to come to you. You're a young guy yet, and full of fire, and you like to make things happen, and you want that excellence. And you know, you look at agriculture, and we need more guys like you out there, because a lot of the older guys are retiring, you know, and they need someone to blaze the way and help them. And so your dad's very fortunate having you on board. And
Well, and I'm very fortunate because most young guys, it's really tough to come up with the equity and the things to get started farming.
it is.
You know, land is expensive. It's hard to get in.
It is.
It really is.
Yeah.
It's not easy. Well, even once you feel like you're in, it's still tough. But
Yeah.
you know, I like the lifestyle,
Sure.
and that's valuable. And I suffer on some parts of it just because I do pay for my lifestyle.
Right. And in any business, you're gonna pay for that, you know.
That's right.
But it's neat. I've been able to watch you and your daughter, your guys' how she's out working with you, and she'll never forget those days. So
No, she rides with me every day I allow it.
Yeah.
And she's already talking about when she can drive tractor and I can do something else.
sure. Well,
Yeah.
very good. Thank you, Weston.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.